So the Championship playoff final is widely considered to be the most valuable single football match in the world. There is so much at stake, and Saints will play Leeds at Wembley on Sunday afternoon. Darren from the LS11, which is a Leeds United podcast, is here to help us preview the game. Hi, Darren. Thanks for coming on.
No problem at all. Thanks very much for having me. Lovely to see you guys.
Let's talk about your semi-finals. Talk to us about the Norwich games, because you kind of had a similar result to us. It was a bit cagey, that first one, wasn't it, on a really hot afternoon? And then, my words, you sort of turned it around for that second leg and came out of the traps.
Yeah, very similar, wasn't it, really? The two playoff semi-finals, I think, both you guys at West Brom and then Leeds down at Norwich. Yeah, really cagey, not much to write home about. In fact, we didn't even do a sort of like a review of it in the weekly pod, because we did our podcast on Friday morning in the end. So all we did was talk about Thursday night, I think. We sort of forgot about that first game after a while. But yeah, they all seem to, for the first time since the international break, Leeds seem to have turned up, which probably was the right time, really, because they did sort of turn it on Thursday, definitely.
Is there a bit of how are you feeling about the playoffs? Is there still a bit of, you thought you were going to be like top two and you could have been there and it just dropped away? Is there still a bit of sort of disagreement and anger about that? Is it kind of like reluctantly taking part in the playoffs?
No, I don't think so, because I think if you'd have offered Leeds playoff final at the beginning of the season, Leeds were in a mess at the beginning of the season. You sort of forget, there was the takeover during the summer. Daniel Farke came in and it was players didn't want to play for the club. They went on strike. It was, they didn't know who was going to be playing for the club for the first month of the season, because obviously the transfer window continued for about 4 weeks, didn't it, when the season started? So Leeds didn't know who was going to be with them, who wasn't going to be with them. And so they got off to a real slow start. But they seemed to sort of turn it around, and Farke got it all together, certainly around the sort of turn of the year. They had a really just sort of disappointing Christmas campaign. But then from that point onwards, they just went on a bit of a charge. Like Southampton, I can't remember how many home records you beat during the season, but there was quite a few. And Leeds did the same in the second half of the season, went unbeaten on this massive long run. So I think, I don't know, it's the hope that kills you, doesn't it? So it's, Leicester started to struggle. You guys struggled a bit. Ipswich were like, 1 week they were doing well, and you're just sort of thinking, hang on a second, there's a chance of it here. And I suppose in any other season, I mean, this championship this year has been incredible. But to get 90 points and not get promoted is, in any other season, you'd think, well, you're nailed on for the Premier League in that point. But I think it just shows you how good this championship season has been. And you look at the top four of the championship, they're the ones, 2 have got promoted, 2 are in the playoff final. So, it's the right ending to it, I suppose. And yeah, I think if Leeds did a bit better after the international break, it was just disappointing from them. But yeah, they seem to have turned it around. But anything can happen in a playoff final, can't it? Really. So
it did feel for a time that like nobody wanted to win the league, didn't it? It's like everyone was desperate to kind of chuck it away. Just on the manager, what have you made of Farke in his first season? What's the feeling towards him? Is it only going to be a success if you go up?
No, I don't think so. I think he's done a fantastic job, and you think about, the absolute mess that he turned up and had to deal with. And he's gone from that to getting Leeds into a playoff final with 90 points through the season. I think it's a fantastic season that they've had. It's actually been fun doing the podcast this season for the first time in 2 years, because for the last two,
we're all nodding.
I mean, you felt it in the last few seasons in the Premier League, as well as Leeds had. I mean, Leeds had a great time in that first season when they finished, what was it, 10th, 9th, something like that under Bielsa. But since that point, it's almost like been therapy every week doing a podcast, and it's just been like, oh my God. But this season it's been real fun. So personally, yes, it would be great if they go up to the Premier League and they win on Sunday. It will be fabulous fun, excellent. But if they don't, then I'm sort of like, well, the Championship's been a real good fun. I really won't mind doing the podcast again this next season if it's in there. But yeah, who knows? It's going to be good for the neutrals.
There's a lot of similarities there, Darren. We're all kind of like nodding along. Alfie, how do you see it going on Sunday?
What a question that is. I don't think anybody can answer that with a real answer, because we have no idea, do we? I mean, look, you can only look back at what's happened this season. I think Darren's absolutely right. I think both clubs have had pretty similar seasons. They've had good runs. They've got squads that in any other year could be in the top two. They've got the weaknesses. They've got reasons why they're not. Saints have won obviously both of the games between the two teams, and I think they've won them both pretty convincingly. But we've seen in the League One and League Two playoff finals this weekend that I think the eventual winners didn't beat the team they beat in either of the league games this season. So it just goes to show that the previous form and meetings have absolutely no bearing on what's going to happen. I think it's going to be an amazing occasion. I think, like, taking my Saints hat back off and being a neutral again, I think Southampton versus Leeds United is potentially the biggest Championship playoff final in a number of years. I think it's it'd be completely sold out. Obviously, the atmosphere will be amazing. It's two really big clubs. And obviously there's the personal aspect as well, in that Russell Martin and Daniel Farke don't get along. He obviously bombed him out of Norwich about 5 or 6 years ago at the very end of his career, a legend of the club. So I think there's so many facets to it. What do I think is going to happen? I've got no idea. I really haven't. But I think it's going to be an amazing occasion. And we just have to hope that Saints have those players who we've spoken about available, and they've got as many options and ways they can play to choose from, because the management have been really good at surprising opposition. They've been really good at coming up with something that's not rocket science, but just a slight tweak to get the edge on the day. They've done it in against Leeds again on the final day. They did it in the semi-final. And if they've got enough people to choose from, they'll do it again on next Sunday, I'm sure. So I'm really looking forward to it.
What's the team news for the weekend, Darren? Any changes expected? Is it going to be pretty much the same team from the Norwich game?
Yeah, I can't see there'll be any particular main changes. Bamford has been injured, so I can't see him even making the bench. It'd be miraculous over the course of this week. But yeah, I can't really see any main changes. And why would you change it from what they did on Thursday night? There's no point. And the benches the bench looks pretty solid as well. So yeah, I can't see there's going to be, unless there's something that happens during training this week. Yeah, I can't see any changes.
I mean, surely if Bamford is fit enough to play half an hour, surely he gets on the bench ahead of someone like Gelhardt, for example, because it's just a difference maker, relatively speaking.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. I think if he's fit enough to get on the bench, but I don't think he is. I don't think he is even fit enough to get onto the bench. From what Farke was saying in the last sort of couple of weeks, he was sort of like out of playoff contention completely. So, yeah, you never know. I mean, he's always been blighted with injury, Patrick Bamford, but he's been pretty good for Leeds, I think, over the last few years. So, it would be great to have him on the bench, I think, if he is available. But Gelhardt, he hasn't really featured Joffy so much this season. But yeah, he's an absolute baller. So it'd be, he's not a bad one to have on in your back pocket at the end of the day.
And what about us, Glenn? What do you reckon? I mean, Che Adams coming back in potentially, winning goal could be some parting gift if he's off to Wolves, if those rumours are to be believed. Would you change the team?
Personally, if Adams is fit, I'd start him because in terms of the Championship, he's been on excellent form the last sort of couple of months, and the fact he's missed the last couple of games won't really matter as long as he is fit and he's confident. Then we said before the West Brom game we wanted Adams to start, play an hour, and then Ross Stewart to come on. As it turns out, they both had knocks. So we got neither. So yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to know what we'll do. I mean, I think, bearing in mind the success we've had and the fact we've looked pretty solid the last 3 games, I can't see us. Jack Stevens will obviously play. We'll play 3 at the back. There might be sort of like little hybrid things going on like we've done in the last sort of couple of games. But I think the main choices will be between Manning and Fraser on the left, I think if one of Adams or Stewart is fit, we'll play with he'll play up front with Adam Armstrong. The rest of the team, I think, more or less picks itself. I am more interested in what Leeds do, because they beat an abject Norwich team.
Norwich were pathetic. Let's be very blunt about this. They were absolutely rancid on Thursday night. Part of it was how well Leeds were, how sort of quick Leeds were to kind of run at them in that first half. But my God, some of their defending.
And good old Angus didn't have.
He had a fantastic game, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he kept the score down in the second half, but by then game was already lost.
But I mean, the Farke Martin thing is really interesting, because where the two games are, the two previous games are kind of relevant is in the patterns of play. Because what I found with Leeds is that when they've got like the four big players up front, if you like, which are usually Rutter, Perot, Nonto, and Somerville, if he plays all four of those, that leaves just two in midfield, and that is really what we exploited in the league game. So I'm kind of expecting, in both the league games, so I'm kind of expecting Leeds to have three in midfield and leave one of those out. But maybe he won't do that. Maybe he'll just think that those four can sort of blast us away. But I think if I was the Leeds manager, I'd certainly be looking to stiffen the midfield, because that's where you've had problems in
They've got three options there as well, haven't they? They've got that Gruev, they've got Gray, and they've got Camera. So they've got three players who can do that if they want to.
I was very surprised.
Gray played right back in the game on Thursday, because I think Sam Byron's injured. So I don't know if they've got another option there.
Interesting.
Archie Gray has been playing it right back quite a lot during the season, actually. He's turned out to be, everybody's sort of like, waxing lyrical about Archie Gray, but, he's just 18 years old, and, he's going to be playing in a Championship playoff final, and he's got an incredible future ahead of him. There's no doubt about that. But it seems to be wherever you place him, he is just incredibly versatile. There's no doubt about that. But he's fantastic at right back. I think, Sam Byron would usually be in that position if he's fit and available. But I sort of think Archie Gray, and I would go with Archie Gray personally, only for the fact that he's just an incredible player. It's just there was a little fact about Archie Gray. I didn't know this, and it was one of the guys on our podcast, Ben Parker, who used to play for Leeds. I didn't realise this, that Archie Gray had to change in a different changing room to all of the rest of the Leeds team because he was under 18. And so until his 18th birthday, which was like 2 months ago, he wasn't even with the team before the match. And you're just sort of thinking, oh my God, right, okay. Is that usual? You went, yeah, he's under 18. He's still a child. I'm like, right, okay. It just blew my mind, that. Absolutely blew my mind. But yeah, he's an incredible talent. And, you hope you keep hold of him. But, someone's going to be sniffing around, I'd imagine.
As always. I mean, Steve, both teams are going to be looking to start the game the same as the semi-finals, really. That bit of energy. It's going to be nervy, isn't it, that first 20 minutes?
It's going to be potential carnage, isn't it? Because both teams like to start fast. And, I mean, if we do both start fast, then there's the kind of distinct possibility that we just crash into each other on the centre spot. It's going to be about who gets a grip of the occasion first and foremost. Which, I mean, both teams did it in the home semi-final, less so in the away ones. So yeah, on neutral ground, we both got the same number of tickets, so it is theoretically 50-50. And yeah, it's going to be those little fine margins, isn't it? It is that midfield is huge. I expect us to go with wing backs. I expect Manning to play instead of Fraser, just because of the way we had to defend in the first half at Elland Road, where obviously they play the two wide guys and really stretch the pitch. And actually, if we've got wing backs, then they are playing basically on the touchline. To kind of shut those avenues down. And I think, I mean, obviously Manning got booked in that game at Elland Road, but I think for the most part we shut Nonto and Somerville down pretty well. So I would expect a similar tactic again. And then once we get on the ball, it's about using it. Can we get those little passing lanes through the midfield hopefully into Adams's feet for those little sort of hold up and then turn it around the corner moves, because we saw that Leeds are pretty vulnerable when teams are running at them, as are we, as we found all season. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're there having scored best part of 90 goals this season. So I mean, anybody predicting 0-0 is pretty brave, I think.
Well, we're going to do score predictions in just a moment. Darren, I'll push you for one. Just what's the confidence? How's everybody feeling about the weekend? Is there a lot of confidence in the air? Do you feel like you go into it as favourites or not?
I'm not sure if you can go into a playoff final as a favourite. Like you say, this is probably the most competitive game that the Championship playoff has had for many years, I would say. And it's like a cigarette paper between the two teams. I think you could toss a coin and see who wins it. I mean, it's just who turns up on the day.
Come down on the side.
Yeah. Exactly. So I just hope it's like a crazy mental, one of those playoff final games that, is great for the neutrals, but not for a Southampton or for a Leeds fan, which is just crazy. And you remember the ones from years gone past, like, Charlton, Sunderland probably comes to mind more than anything else, I'd say. And you hope you're going to get something like that, and then your team comes out on top. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can get. I think both teams will feel pretty confident going into it off the back of the home legs of the playoff semi-finals. So yeah. Who knows? I don't know. And I'm not sure if it's confidence. Leeds historically don't do very well in playoffs. So there wasn't really, when you got into the playoffs, I don't think there was anybody thinking, we're never going to get through this. This isn't going to happen now. But now they're there, you're sort of thinking, well, there's a chance. They could do it. They might not, but they could do it.
So if I was to ask you for a score prediction after 90 minutes extra time, if necessary, what's your head and your heart saying?
Score predictions are not my. I always get because I don't really do real score predictions. So I'm going to go for. There's going to be goals. I'm going to go for at the end of extra time. It'll be 9-8 to Leeds.
We're only laughing along because we are so also poor at doing score predictions, which I guess brings us to ours. Glenn, do you want to go first? Try and call this one.
Yeah, might as well.
Just for one last time this season.
Yeah, well, I haven't got one right all season. There's been so many goals in our games. I can forgive myself for that. I expect Daniel Farke to pick all four of those players that I was talking about earlier on, which will give Leeds a vulnerability once we've played through those four, because none of them are particularly good at tracking back, and we'll be out of the midfield. I think what happened in the game at Ellen Road was, Junior Firpo was a defensive liability, and I think Rodon and Ampadu are good players, but if they don't get the protection in front of them, any centre-back pairing struggles. So I think that's our route to goal. I can't believe that the Leeds front four will kind of misfire like they did at Ellen Road against us. I think that was fairly comfortable, even though we did gift a goal to Joel Perreault in the end. So both teams have got strengths. Both teams have got obvious weaknesses defensively. I just fancy us the last few games. We've just looked a little bit more solid than we were earlier on in the season. And I just expect, I hope, and I expect that we're just going to be a little bit more solid than Leeds are. So that's why I'm optimistically going to predict us to win 2-1.
If you're watching along live, by the way, Saints fans or Leeds fans, put your score predictions in the comments. Steve?
Oh God. Like Glenn, I'm notoriously terrible at these.
Do you want the random number generator?
Yeah, the random number generator, please. I think it's certainly going to go into extra time. I just think that there's so much at stake that actually there's going to be a natural tendency on both sides to once you get towards the end of. Once you get to 90 minutes, essentially, I think extra time will be a bit of a non-event, and it'll be both teams will play as safe as they possibly can, even though both are slightly train wreck-esque at the back at times. So yeah, for me, it's 2-2 after 90 and 120 minutes. And then, God knows. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? I've seen Alex McCarthy save a penalty once, so that means we're going to win 5-4 on penalties.
Alfie?
Yeah, equally, obviously, I haven't got a clue, as we've seen all season. Slightly better than the other two chaps, thankfully. I don't even know where to start. I think obviously it's going to come down to who doesn't freeze. I think an element of that. Pretty much every playoff final, it seems like everyone I watch is 1-0, but I don't think that's going to be the case this time, as they've explained. I like what Glen said. I think I'm interested in what Glen said about the way they set up and how they have this front four. And you look at it on paper and you say Somerville, Perot, Nonto, and Rutter. That all four of them are, in with shouts of sort of team of the season. A couple of them in that team of the season. They can kill a team, easily. But I just like the idea that opens up the second half of the pitch for Southampton. And if you can just, play through that, keep it tight at the back, they've got 3 centre-backs they can rely on now. I think there's going to be a lot of chances to score. And Adam Armstrong's obviously scored against them in both games now. He comes into it with a lot of confidence. I think his finish for the second goal, which effectively wrapped it up, was actually a brilliant finish. West Brom allowed him too much space to sort of cut in. And, he has a clear sight across goal into the bottom corner, but it's a brilliant finish. So I think he'll be up for it. And I've got just more confidence about this Saints team now in the big moment than we had 2 weeks ago. I think they've had a couple outings where it's been a big game, and they've done well in all of them. So, long ago was Leicester 5-0 at this point in my head. Obviously, there is still that possibility. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 win for Southampton. I'm going to do it in 90 minutes as well.
In 90 minutes as well. All right, there we go. Darren, listen, whatever happens, our paths won't cross next year, will they? So,
I'm not liking Glenn laughing here, unfortunately. Darren, making me nervous.
Thanks for coming on, Darren, and we really appreciate the insight. And whatever happens, enjoy the summer. We'll leave it at that, shall we?
Exactly. Yeah. Good luck with the next season, wherever that may be.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks very much for coming on.
No worries. Take care.
Cheers.